the police.
Still in South Africa, the National Assembly Speaker of Parliament, Togo Titiza, has approved a request by Build One South Africa leader Dr. Musi Maimane for an urgent debate on the escalating crisis in the Middle East. Maimane wrote to the Speaker requesting that Parliament urgently deliberate on the implications of the attack on Iran by the US and Israel. He says lawmakers must address the safety of South Africans in the region, the potential economic impact of the conflict, and South Africa's foreign policy position.
The South African government cannot sit idly on its hands while citizens are wondering how South Africans who are in the Middle East are going to be given assistance to get back home, to be safe. The second part is that our economy is going to be impacted as supply chain and logistics are impacted post this war. How does the South African government seek to ensure that our economy is able to be resilient against this ongoing crisis? Thirdly, and more importantly, is that equally, South Africa needs to be able to give clarity to citizens about what its foreign policy and its allies are in this particular conflict and whether it remains integrous to the issue of non-alignment.
The Pan-Africanist Congress Party has called on South Africans to ensure that Human Rights Day is commemorated with the dignity it deserves. The party says it is a concern that this year's event will once again be turned into a political spectacle with rallies and music festivals. Human Rights Day is observed annually in South Africa on March the 21st to commemorate the 1960 Sharpeville massacre. 69 people were killed on the day by police during a peaceful protest against unjust apartheid past laws. The PAC says they are still calling for the day to be called Sharpeville. The party Secretary General Ababoy.
It is not a campaign. It is not a day for loud music. It's a sacred day in the blood of our people. Sharpeville is a memorial of sacrifice. We therefore call on all South Africans to commemorate the day with dignity, to remember the martyrs and recommit ourselves to ideals for which they died for.
Human Rights Watch says drone attacks by Haitian security forces targeting criminal gangs have killed more than 1,200 people, including civilians and children. It said operations had significantly increased in recent months in the densely populated capital Port-au-Prince. Armed groups control most of the capital, and the country has seen years of gang violence. Recapping the top story this hour, a new report from Yale University says Sudan's RSF paramilitaries deliberately starved farming communities during the siege of Al-Fasher. For any news stories you would like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I'm Jolani Tulo Wepe.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
In our sports headline, World Cup Chief Operating Officer says tournament is too big to be postponed. And Kenya's Sheila Chepkerui cruises to victory at Nagoya Marathon and all the way to the bank. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
Business, trade, and investment opportunities that put the continent first. Africa in Business with Thami Ngubeni.
It is exactly 6 minutes after 4 p.m. A very good afternoon to you, DRC. Good afternoon, Senegal, Eritrea. Good afternoon to you, Kenya, Lesotho, Swaziland. Good afternoon, Africa. Welcome to it. This is Africa in Business on Channel Africa. And Thami Ngubeni. Coming up this hour, Burkina Faso unveils a $64 billion National Development Plan, the PND, for 2026 to 2030. Now, this plan is aimed at transforming its economy. We'll focus on this. And South Africa's trade unions set to meet with the government employees' medical scheme over what they call exorbitant premium increases. Do stay connected to Africa and the world with Channel Africa, the international voice of the South African Broadcasting Corporation. You can watch or listen anytime, anywhere at channelafrica.co.za, on the Channel Africa mobile app and on SABC Plus, or via the DSTV and OpenView audio bouquets. You can also catch us on social media at Channel Africa on Facebook and Channel Africa One on all other platforms. Channel Africa, First with the African story globally.
Africa in Business on Channel Africa.
The governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Olayemi Cardoso, says the surge to stronger external fundamentals and a series of policy reforms have helped restore confidence in the currency market. He noted that the improvement reflects increased foreign exchange inflows, more effective reserves management, and a renewed capacity to meet external obligations.
A larger foreign reserves is super good for considering the number of volume of foreign transactions that is being done by Nigeria. So it's a good indication. A second one is that it also gives the country an opportunity to be able to access the foreign reserves when they need it for maybe urgent, maybe infrastructural or any kind of developmental project.
Dennis O'Shea, a certified financial modeling and valuation analyst.
Bringing the African markets into your home. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Connecting Africa to the world. Africa in Business with Thami Ngubeni brings you the latest insights on Africa's economy.
We begin here this afternoon with the South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. He has urged for stronger economic ties between South Africa and Brazil by telling investors that the two countries should position themselves as strategic gateways to each other's regional markets. You'll remember this is a story that we covered yesterday as well about the meeting between the two heads of state. Speaking at the Brazil-South Africa Business Forum during his state visit to Brazil on Monday, President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, said South Africa could serve as Brazil's entry point into African markets under the African Continental Free Trade Area, while Brazil could act as South Africa's gateway into Latin America. Channel Africa's reporter Michael Mbewe filed this report.
The Brazil-South Africa Business Forum comes at a time when the global economy is facing significant headwinds driven by a series of economic shocks. Ongoing geopolitical tensions, including the conflict in the Middle East, continue to create uncertainty and threaten to disrupt the movement of people, goods and services across key international trade routes. These developments have heightened concerns over supply chain stability, energy security and global market confidence. Against this backdrop, platforms such as the SA Brazil Forum provides an important opportunity for countries to strengthen economic partnerships, expand trade cooperation and explore new avenues for investment that can help cushion the economies from the effects of an increasingly volatile global environment. In his remarks, Ramaphosa said the two countries should position themselves as key entry points into each other's regional markets.
We want to position South Africa as Brazil's gateway into African markets under the African Continental Free Trade Area, and to position Brazil as South Africa's gateway into Latin America. So the two of us have an opportunity to mutually benefit one another. Many South African companies have operations in Brazil already, and similarly, a number of Brazilian companies are making great moves into the South African market.
Following U.S. tariffs that disrupted global trade, Ramaphosa urged reducing trade barriers and boosting cooperation in various economic sectors.
We need to work on reducing trade friction by strengthening cooperation on trade remedies and resolving non-tariff constraints affecting priority products between our two countries. There is huge scope for advancing industrial cooperation in identified high-impact sectors. And between the two countries, there are important key sectors where cooperation can be heightened to a much higher level. These sectors include biofuels, defense, agro-processing, agriculture, aerospace, energy, pharmaceuticals, as well as advanced manufacturing and automotives as well.
That report there put together by Michael Mbewe, Channel Africa's reporter, on the progress being made between South Africa and Brazil as far as trade is concerned. It's gone exactly 12 minutes after 4 p.m. Central African time. When we return in just a moment, we'll take a look at the GEMS, which is Government Employees Medical Scheme, that is for the South African government. A lot of outrage regarding what many unions call exorbitant prices. We'll be speaking this afternoon to FEDUSA's General Secretary, Ms. Rifda Ajam.
The voice of the continent, now online, with all your sports fixtures, lifestyle, and more. Africa means business. Tune into Africa in Business with Thami Ngubeni for the future of the African economy. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Now, it has been reported that South Africa's government employees medical scheme, which is GEMS, is set to hold talks with major trade union federations in an effort to halt ongoing protests, demonstrations and marches at its offices by public service workers. The workers say they are, I quote, united and outraged by the recent premium increases. The Federation of Unions of South Africa, FEDUSA, along with other trade union bodies, has called for the immediate withdrawal of the 9.5% increase and is demanding the development of a more affordable contribution structure through meaningful consultation and organised labour. For more on this, we joined this afternoon by FEDUSA's General Secretary, Ms. Rifda Ajam. A very good afternoon to you, ma'am. Welcome to Africa in Business.
A very good afternoon to you, likewise, Thami, and thank you for the opportunity.
So what is your main concern as FEDUSA regarding the 9.5% premium increase announced by GEMS?
Well, from a FEDUSA perspective and on behalf of the hundreds of thousands of public service workers, this is essentially an unjustifiable move. We believe that it is regressive in all aspects and it is a betrayal of the scheme's founding purpose. What we are seeing here now is that over a 2-year period, the scheme has cumulatively escalated the increases that they have passed on to members by more than 23%. It is just ridiculous. And it is catastrophic, to say the least. Workers in general do not receive increases of that nature and magnitude. So why then the reason behind this unjustifiable increase?
So what then is the immediate impact on public servants and particularly the lower income government employees? What does this mean for them?
Well, you can just imagine it has crippled their income levels because when you take into account what their increases have been by way of the collective bargaining agreements, it is something like 4.4%. When you put together an increase of 9.8% and in the previous year 13.4%, where do you expect members to be able to live a dignified life? The cost of living continues to rise, and we take into account household inflation as well and the ravaging effects thereof. Members had nothing, now you are crippling them. This is certainly a travesty of justice, and it has to be remedied. We need to talk, we need to do constructive engagements, but more than ever, we need to be honest in those engagements to make sure we are not enriching the rich even further and crippling the poor to levels of destitution.
And on that very note, one of the demands that you've made is for the development of a more affordable contribution structure. And you say that this can be achieved through consultation with organised labour. Is your major concern an affordability issue, or is it a lack of consultation with organised labour, or a combination of both?
It is definitely a combination of both. If you take into account what had happened, number one, let's speak about the issue pertaining to our memorandum of demands, but in essence, the issue of not just affordability, but accessibility. What has happened at this stage is that GEMS, by the very nature of what they have done, is defied the recommendations from the Council for Medical Schemes, first and foremostly, and they have defied the very founding mandate of GEMS as a social solidarity instrument that was created through the PSCBC. It was never intended to operate as a commercial enterprise. It was established in essence to ensure affordable equitable access to healthcare for public servants, particularly the lower and middle income earners. And what we are saying in that end is that this kind of increase is unjustifiable, and it is just regressive by its very nature in terms of eroding all forms of disposable income that public servants have at their disposal. On the flip side of the coin, in terms of your question being a combination of both elements, we find that the way that GEMS had gone about doing this has just frustrated the process overall. They have not consulted. They have informed members one day before this increase was to be implemented, that this is what they are intending to do. So we are saying that this is not a process of weakening collective bargaining and defying every process of engagement. We are demanding that they be transparent first and foremostly. In terms of that model, we are asking that they be transparent in terms of their responsibilities and making sure that the mandate originally can be embraced. Now, I want to end off on this point. We looked at two elements. We spoke about affordability and accessibility, and we spoke about communication and consultation, which was absolutely non-existent. Now, how do you justify, and this is what I want the listeners to take into account here, how do you justify that you have over 28 meetings in one financial year to the tune of empowering the pockets of your board members in excess of 11 million, and you want to cripple public servants with a double-digit increase over 2 years? This is absolute thuggery at the worst levels, and we will not stand for it.
I wondered then, Mr. Jam, what your options are as the union, as government employees. Have you gone through a market analysis and comparison where perhaps there are other places where you would be able to get more affordable health care and health cover?
Well, most definitely. This process is a moving target. We have already started commissioning the research in terms of that comparative analysis, starting already from the lower end in terms of GEMS, but equally so, placing that analysis online or in line with other private medical schemes. And in this instance, we speak about open private medical schemes, whereas GEMS is a closed medical scheme that was designed specifically for public servants. So at this point in time, what I can confirm with you is that we are pushing that matter forward. We are looking at, number one, pursuing a Section 77 application with NEDLAC to make sure that there can be an overall of the system, not just GEMS, but all schemes in totality, to make sure that our people are not crippled, because South Africa remains an outlier in terms of the data for private healthcare provision when you take into account that developing nations rely on the public health system. And in South Africa, the travesty is that we have become over-reliant then on the private healthcare systems that is literally making a killing. There was a study that was done a few years ago, and we are going to advance on that particular mandate to make sure that ultimately South Africans overall, in this instance public servants, are not robbed of their dues, because if it is us today, tomorrow it can be others. We want South Africans overall to have dignity, to have accessibility and affordability, and not have zero in their pockets, which is then further reduced at a later stage. It cannot continue in this fashion.
Ms. Rifta Ajam, we thank you so much for your contribution to this conversation today, and we certainly will be keeping abreast of developments regarding your pleas and your plight. We thank you for your time, ma'am.
You are most welcome.
Thank you. That's FEDUSA's General Secretary, FEDUSA being the Federation of Unions of South Africa. She takes us to 21 minutes after 4.
When it comes to world-class exhibitions and event solutions, one name leads the way: GL Events South Africa. From concept to completion, we transform ideas into exceptional experiences, delivering seamless events for conferences, exhibitions, business functions, and more. With global expertise and local insight, We provide innovative, sustainable, and turnkey event solutions you can trust. Partner with the industry leader. Partner with GL Events South Africa. Visit gl-events.co.za.
Hi there. Do you want to elevate your business and give it a voice in South Africa and Africa as a whole? Well, in that case, let Channel Africa make this a possibility. Channel Africa is willing to advertise your business for as little as 30,000 rands or $1,719.18. To get access to these great rates, send all requests to mokoenata@SABC. That's MOKOENATA@SABC. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Stay ahead with Africa in Business, where Thami Ngubeni unpacks your go-to source for Africa's economic trends and development.
It has gone 23 minutes after 4 p.m. Central African time as we turn our focus now to Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso has unveiled a $64 billion National Development Plan, the PND, for the years 2026 to 2030. Now, this plan is aimed at transforming its economy and promoting inclusive growth. It also focuses on 4 strategic priorities, those being enhancing security and social cohesion, among other things. Key objectives include increasing local processing of raw materials, boosting the mining sector's contribution to the national economy, and developing infrastructure that supports industrial growth. For more on this, we joined on the line by Bernard Ouanji, former senior economist for the United Nations. A very good afternoon to you. Welcome to African Business once again.
Okay, thank you very much. I am very much for discussion.
So what are your thoughts about Burkina Faso's $64 billion 5-year plan? And I ask you this, if you could compare it to previous national development strategies.
Well, I think that the plan that has been rolled out, the envelope, the budget should be slashed by 2. It should be slashed by 2 because the previous one, from 21 to 25, the delivery rate was very, very low. The delivery rate on the previous one was very, very low. So now I just don't see if they have the absorptive capacity to absorb the $60 million investment. I don't see that the country has that absorptive capacity.
Right. And so when you look at the plan, you've mentioned the capacity. How realistic is it, given Burkina Faso's current economic and political challenges?
I think that the new authorities in Burkina Faso must be congratulated, commended, because they have brought stability, some form of stability, and they have achieved some form of transparency, especially in the area of gold. You know, now gold production of Burkina Faso officially is declared standing at nearly 100 tons per year, which is nearly the production of Ghana. It is less than Ghana and Mali, but it is 5 times what the military regime found when they took power, when they took over 5 years ago. So it means that there is more transparency now in the extractive industry, and that the gold should be playing a very important factor. Actually, in the next 5-year plan, the government of Burkina said that most of the resources to finance the plan will come from the mining sector.
And how does this then, sir, align with the country's long-term vision for economic growth and diversification? This is part of their roadmap. So if there's still going to be such a heavy reliance on gold, what are their diversification plans?
Well, unfortunately, in the 5-year plan that I have reviewed, they have it's only at the level of policy pronouncement. Of course, you know, they say that they want to bring energy supply from the level of 700 megawatt to 2,500 megawatt, which means to multiply it by 4, and also that they have the capacity to multiply the energy supply by 4 within the time span of 4 years. And in addition to that, when you read the plan, there is very, very little vision for manufacturing. There are very, very few projects, for manufacturing and transforming the local materials into processed goods. So it's heavily dependent on the mining sector and more or less on the infrastructure sector. They want to build roads for sure, but we don't know if the security situation will allow to extend the road network to the level that they are planning.
Right. So another really positive aspect as far as Burkina Faso is concerned is the fact that the country's managed to strengthen its fiscal position by repaying about 2.1 billion rands worth of debt since early last year. What are the risks of debt accumulation for Burkina Faso if significant external funding is used for the National Development Plan? And maybe while you're answering that, if you could touch on whether the plan is sourcing internal funding or relying on external funding sources.
Well, the plan is relying on internal resources for about 68% and external funding for about 30%. There is a good sign that they could secure this external financing because recently the Burkina Faso government signed an agreement with the International Monetary Fund, and last week the Burkina Faso government signed an agreement with the United States government in Washington to provide assistance in the area of humanitarian things like that. So there is a good possibility that they could get the internal external financing. But what worries me is the ability to mobilize internal resources to the level that they pretend. Because when you look at the government itself, the government has been running a fiscal deficit of 10% of GDP during the past few years. And the fact that the budget was able to double from 1,500 francs CFA to 3,400 francs CFA is still showing a deficit of 3%, a chronic fiscal deficit of 3%. That gives a very, very bad sign on the capacity to mobilize domestic resources in order to finance the development plan.
I guess that is what poses the largest risk on this plan, especially if 68% of these resources are to be sourced from the domestic market. We thank you so much, sir, for outlining all of this for us. We'll certainly keep abreast of developments on that front.
Okay. Give all my encouragements to the new government. They are very proactive and they are very good image, especially within the African youth.
All right. Thank you, sir. That's Bernard Wanji, former senior economist for the United Nations. He takes us to exactly 4:30 p.m. Central African time. Let's move our focus now and take a look at some of the markets. Let's head over to the markets desk with Thabiso Lehoko standing by with the indicators.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thanks, Thami, and good afternoon. The dollar in South Africa will cost you 16 Rand 64. In Botswana, 13 Pula 43 Namibian, 16 Namibian dollars 64. And in Zambia, it's at 19 Kwacha 37. In Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shillings 312. Ethiopia, 155 birr 351. Uganda, 3,000 shilling 720. And in Tanzania, the dollar is trading at 2,000 shilling 576. It's at 1,394 naira in Nigeria. In Egypt, the dollar will cost you 52 Egyptian pound 175. Tunisia, 2 dinar 910. Algeria, 130 dinar 532. The Moroccan dirham is trading at 9276 to the dollar. In Angola, the dollar is trading at 912 kwanza, while the Congolese franc is at 2,141 to the US dollar. Commodities markets now: gold $5,255, while platinum is at $2,222 per ounce. Brent crude oil is at $92.06 a barrel. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business in Johannesburg, I'm Tabiso Lohoko.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
And standing by from the sports desk with the latest business of sport news, here is Figile Lingwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thank you, Thami. Let me kick off with football news. FIFA's World Cup Chief Operating Officer Jaime Shigi says the tournament is too big to be postponed because of global turmoil caused by the USA and Israeli war against Iran. Speaking at the International Broadcast Center for the 48-nation tournament, which starts on the 11th of June, Shigi said FIFA continues to closely monitor the Iran war and its fallout. Shigi also addressed FIFA's surprise decision last month to add a 48-hour window for ticket sales. FIFA has been criticized for ticket prices as high as $8,680 for Category 1 seats, the best in the lower bowls, $5,575 for Category 2, and $4,185 for Category 3. Tickets for the first round range as high as $2,735 for Category 1, $1,940 for Category 2, and $1,120 for Category 3. After criticism, FIFA said in December it was selling a few hundred $60 tickets for every game to the 48 national federations in the tournament to be sold to the regularly attending fans. On to netball, Special Investigating Unit SIU has launched a probe into a grant to Netball South Africa NSA for a World Cup 2023 legacy project. NSA was awarded a $4 million grant by the National Lotteries Commission NLC to build dozens of all-weather courts across the country as a World Cup 2023 legacy project. NSA had asked for between $300 and $714, but the NLC paid out $1.4 million. The grant was then frozen after a forensic investigation uncovered serious issues, including shoddy construction and conflicts of interest. NSA is considering legal action against the original contractors and consultants who had failed to meet their obligation and has briefed attorneys. And South African Olympian Nicole Berger says she is proud to have represented South Africa after making history as the country's first woman to compete in Olympic skeleton at the Winter Olympics. Berger has mentioned that all the athletes that have qualified and participated at the Games are self-funded and rely heavily on their salaries or sponsors, but has acknowledged efforts made by SASCOC in assisting athletes.
Yeah, so qualifying for some of the games, all the athletes that are competing are self-funded. So we rely heavily on either our salaries that from our day jobs that we do over summer, or sponsors. That seems that's a heavy factor of how we can able to compete and travel, because obviously with our disciplines, especially in any of the winter sports, you have a lot of kit that you have to take with you, and you're obviously during ski season in all the winter climates, it's peak costs, unfortunately.
Berger says many athletes will be able to compete internationally for their country if their financial support improves.
Yeah, we rely heavily on sponsorship and any self-funding means that we can sort of achieve ourselves to try and get through the season. And it is hard for all the athletes that are doing it. It can be quite demoralising at times when you look at the finances, look at the cost, and then work out, am I actually going to make it through the season? Or am I going to be able to go to the races I need to be able to get points or to qualify for certain races throughout the season?
And finally, Kenya's Sheila Chipkerui cruised to victory at the Nagoya Women's Marathon in Japan, and for all her troubles, she has pocketed $250,000 in prize money. Chepkirui clocked 2 hours, 21 and 54 seconds to cut the tape ahead of Japan's Sayaka Sato, who came as close second in 2 hours, 21.56 seconds. Her victory was the second straight one for Chepkerui, who won last year's edition of the same competition after timing 2 hours, 20.40 seconds. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Fikile Lingwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Africa in business on Channel Africa.
Thank you to Thabiso Lehoko and Figile Lingwati. They bring us to exactly 37 minutes after 4 p.m. Central African time. Now, South Africa's economy recorded modest growth in the final quarter of 2025. Figures released by Statistics South Africa show that gross domestic product grew by 0.4%. This is up slightly from 0.3% in the third quarter. Channel Africa's economics reporter Innocent Samosa reports.
Statistician General Risenga Maluleke says the growth was mainly supported by stronger activity in the finance, real estate and business services sector, as well as trade, catering and accommodation. Agriculture, personal services and government services also posted small gains.
It is indeed resilient because it has been showing a growth under difficult conditions through which it trudges. It has been showing positive growth coming out of the fourth quarter of 2024. Not much, 0.4% there, 0.3% there, and indeed in the last quarter of 2025 we have seen a 0.4%, which was largely driven from your finance as well as areas like your trade and others. Finance contributed 0.3 of a percentage point to what we have seen as an ultimate final growth. And of course, when you combine all the quarters of 2025, we see that our economy has returned a 1.1% growth.
However, the manufacturing sector declined with weaker performance in the divisions such as motor vehicles and transport equipment, wood and paper products, and food and beverages.
Third quarter, the only industry that had grown in the negative was utilities, that is electricity, gas and water. But going further, when we go to the fourth quarter, we can see that industries such as mining, manufacturing, utilities and construction, as well as finance and business services, have actually gone in the negative.
Economists are now watching closely to see whether the latest figures signal improving economic momentum for South Africa heading into 2026. Makwe Masilela is the CFO of Makwe Fund Managers.
Our economy in quarter four did better than expected, increasing by 0.4%. And for the year of 2025, that was the best growth that we've seen in the past 3 years, up 1.1%. And if we look for on quarter, agriculture, which was doing better in Q3, this time didn't do that great. But on a yearly basis, agriculture, finance and trade did very well. And for the Q4, we've been helped mainly by finance.
Makwe says household spending continues to show resilience, while fixed capital investment has also improved.
And also what is pleasing when it comes to Q4 growth is that we've seen household spending continuing to go up and government spending lagging behind. But the fixed capital formation also was much better for the quarter. And we hope that if we get the right structural reforms that we've been hoping for, we'll continue to do great. And yes, we all know that we need a growth far better than that, at least anything above 3% to be able to absorb this high unemployment rate that we are facing as a country.
Despite the slight improvement, growth remains modest, highlighting the continued challenges facing Africa's most industrialized economy. For Channel Africa News, I'm Innocent Samosa in Pretoria, South Africa.
The safety and well-being of learners is a shared social responsibility. Parents and guardians play a critical role in ensuring safe, reliable, and lawful scholar transport. Parents are therefore urged to take responsibility for the following. Parents should ensure that learners are on time and ready for collection to prevent unsafe driving practices such as rushing, unscheduled stops, or overloading. By working together, parents, operators, and authorities can protect learners and build a culture of safety on our roads. Issued by the National Department of Transport.
From markets to innovation. From markets to innovation. Africa in Business with Thami Ngubeni covers it all. With Africa's future in focus, Channel Africa, the African perspective.
It is exactly 4:42 Central African time. We focus now on the SMEs, and we do this every now and then, and we're looking at the impact that some companies are having on the rural economy. We focus and host today the Icebo Lethu Foundation. Over the past 7 years, they have actively empowered small and medium enterprises through targeted initiatives, which include its signature Ekasi Business Fair and Supplier Development Program. The foundation's programs aim to integrate township and rural businesses into the broader economy by offering access to markets, mentorship, as well as funding opportunities. Recently, the Icebo Lethu Foundation launched a new initiative in partnership with public and private sector companies to help SMMEs scale their operations and also drive job creation. For more on this, we joined on the line by the Icebo Lethu Foundation manager, Ayanda Mgoyi. A very good afternoon to you, Ayanda. Welcome to Africa in Business.
Afternoon, Thami. How do you do?
Very, very well, thank you. And very excited to be chatting to you as Icebo Lethu. You're always doing such fabulous work on the ground. But focusing on the foundation side of Icebo Lethu, could you tell us more about that? The Kasi Business Fair, as well as the Supply Development Program that you run.
Right. So the Kasi Business Fair actually came about last year in September as an idea. And so I went and pitched it to the Department of Economic Development, as well as other entities. But I mentioned them because they then became our partner in driving the Icebo Lethu Ekasi Business Fair. So this was our very first one that we did. And we started in Hammersdale, rightfully so, because Icebo Lethu Funerals, or Icebo Lethu Group, is actually from the township called Hammersdale, Mpumalanga Township in KZN. And we felt it fit for us to start there, especially because back in the day, Hammersdale was known to be an industrial area. And so that's where we are. We started there. We aim to also go to other districts and other townships and rural areas as well. And basically, the whole objective of the business fair is just to ensure that small businesses know how to scale their businesses, know how to look after their businesses, their books, bookkeeping, etc., brand and package their business as well. And basically, we want to teach businesses in the township that they too can do it. If we were able to do it as Icebo Lethu Group, I mean, Icebo Lethu Group is now an international company and a multi-award-winning business, also internationally. And we also started in Hammersdale in a very small container-like structure. And this is where we are. And we just really want to pay it forward as the foundation.
And perhaps let's take a couple of steps back about who you are as Icebo Lethu Group. Yes, you started and your foundations are in the funeral industry, but you've since diversified. Give us a bit of a global picture and understanding of who you are as a group.
Sure. So as a group, we actually have 13 companies under us. And one of them being, well, now we actually have lifestyle brands. So why it's important as a group for us to diversify is because we want to get the message out to our clients that we're not only just a funeral business, but we want to do life with you. So we want our clients to experience the Icebo Lethu brand while you're alive, and during, death, or if there's a tragedy in the family, and afterwards. So we've implemented different sort of businesses to fuel that vision of ensuring that we are a holistic brand in terms of that the client experiences us while alive. We've got iMobile now. We've launched as one of the businesses where people can now actually get cell phones from us. And this works beautifully because a lot of our clients back in the day really didn't have airtime or resources to make the calls and help put together the funeral. We also have iTravel, which is a lifestyle brand, and it really ties in beautifully, especially with our repatriation services that we offer. We have a lot of SADC country clients that then use our iTravel, which is our travel agency, to book traveling flights, accommodation, for them then to be able to attend funerals in different countries. So yes, we've grown tremendously. I doubt I have time to mention all 13 brands.
But I think what's quite clear, Ayanda, is that a lot of these businesses actually stem from your core business. And so you cover a large part of the value chain yourself, which is really phenomenal. I want to get back to the Kasi Business Fair and the access that you give to businesses in rural areas. You mentioned some of the mentorship and courses, including bookkeeping and marketing, etc. How do you then measure the impact of your mentorship on businesses that you work with, and how do you ensure sustainability?
Right, that's a great question because we're all about impact. And throughout the planning of this entire project, the forefront of it has been impact. Dr. Nomfundo Mtoyi, the GCO of the group, has, first and foremost has said, guys, impact, and it needs to be tangible and permanent impact. So what we've done is, especially with our partner, ETIA, Department of Economic Development, we have then said we are going to select, after this exhibition or business fair, we've now selected some spaza shops as well as tuck shops and vendors, whereby we assist them in growing them through packaging, helping them basically reconstruct or renovate or buy a new container if they need to. If it is cool drinks and Vos rolls they are selling in the container, we then provide them with all that equipment. And Department of Economic Development also has a program whereby they provide stock for free, about worth 20,000 Rand, to spaza shop owners for them to be able to start off, to start on fertile ground. So those are the sort of things that we've done to help measure growth. And moreover, during the whole business fair, we had about 12 businesses come up on stage impromptu to then pitch their businesses. They had 90 seconds to pitch their businesses, and then the winner won 10,000 Rand and 5,000 Rand. But it doesn't end there. Afterwards, NYDA has said they would like to then help mentor these businesses that were on stage pitching, and also Economic Development Department is also looking to then increase the win by formulating a pitch your business session where then they can then stand a chance to win 50,000 Rand. Of course, then 50,000 Rand compared to 10 or 5,000 Rand is far more impactful.
Certainly.
So that's how.
Yeah, I mean, it really would make a difference in a person's business, whatever sector it is that they are involved in. We're going to leave it from at that for this afternoon, Ayanda, but wishing you continued success with the work that you're doing within the rural communities, as well as your private and public partnerships, in order to make sure that your tentacles are well within the community and really serving all of the value chain. We thank you for your time, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Thami.
Thank you.
To the listener.
Thank you so much. That's Ayanda Mtoyi. She's the foundation manager for Icebo Foundation. She takes us to exactly 4:51.
The safety and well-being of learners is a shared social responsibility. Parents and guardians play a critical role in ensuring safe, reliable, and lawful scholar transport. Parents are therefore urged to take responsibility for the following. Parents must actively educate and reinforce acceptable learner conduct while the scholar transport vehicle is stationary or in motion. This includes the proper use of seatbelts, remaining seated at all times, and never sitting on the floor, steps, or in the boot of the vehicle. By working together, parents, operators, and authorities can protect learners and build a culture of safety on our roads. Issued by the National Department of Transport.
Africa in Business on Channel Africa.
In about 8 minutes' time, we'll be making way for Vue d'Afrique as we hand over to the French desk. And she is here looking ever so elegant.
Merci beaucoup.
Oui, madame.
Merci beaucoup, Thami.
She's Joelle, host of Vue d'Afrique. What do you have in store for us today?
Alors, sur Vue d'Afrique aujourd'hui, bonjour à tous. On parlera des soldats blessés et du matériel endommagé à l'issue d'une nouvelle attaque armée au Niger, mais aussi du Sénégal. Quel paysage pour le pays après la rupture en vue entre le président, le chef de l'État et son Premier ministre, et beaucoup d'autres sujets politiques, économiques, sportifs sur Vue d'Afrique, c'est tout à l'heure. Merci de rester connecté. Merci, Thami.
Merci beaucoup. Restez connectés. She joins us at the top of the hour.
From markets to innovation. From markets to innovation. Africa in Business with Thami Ngubeni covers it all. With Africa's future in focus, Channel Africa, the African perspective.
It is 4:53, and in our Standard Bank feature today, we turn our attention to Proudly South African Buy Local Summit and Expo, which is taking place on the 16th and the 17th of this very month in Johannesburg, South Africa. Standard Bank is the headline sponsor of this annual event, once again reaffirming the bank's commitment to strengthening the domestic economy through localization and SME empowerment. To tell us more about this is the Senior Manager for Enterprise and Supply Development Programs at Business and Commercial Banking South Africa at Standard Bank Group, Nokhanyo Njingila. A very good afternoon to you. Good to have you with us on African Business.
Good afternoon, Thami. Good afternoon to you and the listeners.
So, Nokhanyo, this is not the first time that Standard Bank has added its weight behind the Proudly South African Buy Local Summit and Expo. Why have you decided to continue supporting this initiative?
Thami, Standard Bank, Business and Commercial Banking, Enterprise and Supply Development, we continue to support this great initiative and partner with Proudly SA, for the Buy Local Summit and Expo, because it really aligns strongly with our commitment to localization, enterprise development, and economic inclusion. Because the summit itself provides a high impact platform for SMEs to showcase their products, their services, connect with buyers, connect with procurement opportunities. So for these emerging businesses, this is a great platform. And as a bank that position itself as a partner of growth, supporting this initiative allows us to really play an active role in strengthening the local supply chains and really supporting localization and the growth of SMEs, which ultimately contributes to job creation and economic resilience.
What are the most common criticisms really that SMEs have when it comes to financial institutions? Is that financial institutions have very stringent business loan application processes and they're not advancing enough credit to SMEs. How do you as Standard Bank respond to that criticism when the development of SMEs, particularly majority black-owned ones, sits squarely in your portfolio as the Senior Manager of Enterprise and Supplier Development?
Yeah, so you're so right. SMEs face a lot of challenges, and one of them being funding. So how we show up and make sure that we support them, it is through the mostly our non-banking financial solutions, which speaks to development, which speaks to supporting them to be to grow and be fundable businesses. So we give them the tools, we show them how to run sustainable businesses so they can have access to funding. And one of our solutions that we have in enterprise and supplier development is supporting them with funding, with the understanding that they don't have balance sheets to support, their funding request. So we are very lenient. We still comply with regulations, but we look at what are you doing? Do you have a market? Do you have, contracts, if any, purchase order funding, and all of those things? So we support and show them and show up for them in that regard. We run successful, successful development programs where we are very intentional about being practical so that they are able to present themselves and their businesses to allow investors, to allow the banking institutions, for them to be attractive so that they are able to get funding to scale their businesses.
Right. I'd like to wrap up with a two-in-one type of question, if you wish. In the recent address by the president, he recently spoke about South Africa being on the cusp of achieving rapid growth. Where do SMEs fit in to that equation, and how would they then contribute to the momentum? That's part one of the question. And the other, which piggybacks on that, is how procurement from South African suppliers and localization actually strengthens and helps to strengthen the domestic economy.
Yeah, thanks for those questions, Thami. So SMEs remain the central thing, in terms of growth for South Africa's growth trajectory. So globally, businesses drive innovations, employment, and economic diversification. And South Africa is no different. So, that statement or that question from the president really aligns in terms of if SMEs are properly supported, they can create significant employment opportunities, drive local manufacturing and services, strengthen the economy, and contribute to competitiveness. So unlocking the potential, it really requires collaboration between government, financial institution, private sector, corporates, and development partners. So and just going back to this initiative. So initiatives like the Buy Local Summit are important because they create an ecosystem where SMEs can connect with these opportunities, markets, partners, and that enable them to grow faster and more sustainably.
All right. Thank you so much, ma'am, for that. And, wishing you all the best with the Proudly South African Buy Local Summit and Expo, which you are headline sponsoring.
Thank you so much. We are looking forward to it and excited to support our SMEs.
Oh, I'm sure they're looking forward to it as well.
They are.
Wherever there's Kaching, SMEs are very happy to be there. So
wherever there's access to markets, they are there, they are ready, and we're waiting for them. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. That is the Senior Manager for Enterprise and Supply Development Programs at Business and